In 2019, we were graced with so many amazing games. Devil May Cry 5, Sekiro, Outer Wilds, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Fire Emblem 3 Houses, Metro Exodus, Control. I mean, the list goes on. But one of the big titles in 2019 was so different from all of the others. And that game was Silent Hills. And that is Death Stranding, a game that took creative risks but provided the player with mechanics and exploration that had a ton of depth. A lot of people simply didn't have the time, interest, or attention span to fully experience the game beyond delivering a few packages on foot. I, as well as many others, can tell you that this game has so much more to offer, but of course that's not really what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to present to you all the wondrous world of turning Sam Porter Bridges' westward expedition to reconnect America via the chiral network into a hilariously broken adventure by utilizing the biggest trick in Death Stranding speedruns: the Norman Pedus. Yes, you heard me correctly, the Norman Pedus. The key to breaking this game wide open for a complete reroute of the speedrun is the mechanic where you have Sam take a Wizz. If you're not familiar with Death Stranding at all, there is a dedicated urinate button. The urinating mechanic is used for growing mushrooms in the wild, which if done enough in the same spot will allow a colony of cryptobiotes to spawn. Those are used to recover blood, and the other use of peeing is to create EX grenades in the private room. Those can be used against the BTs, which are the most dangerous and hostile beings you encounter regularly. The third, completely unintentional use is the Norman Pedus, a glitch that allows the player to glide across America and connect the cities at unprecedented speeds. Before I show you all the various ways that it can be utilized in the run, let me explain how it's performed and what makes it so difficult. First things first, you must be on the original release version of the game, meaning you will need a PS4 disc copy on a console that's offline. All digital versions will not work, and the PC version, no matter how much you downpatch, will not work either. Fortunately, the game is pretty cheap now if you really wanted to try this yourself. Once you've booted up the 1.0 version of the game, you're going to want to get a feel for the movement and jumping mechanics, which aren't difficult. Once you've gotten a feel for the jump, you're ready to start peeing in mid-air. Pressing the urinate button in mid-air will interrupt the animation of jumping, causing it to repeat over and over, which means Sam constantly wants to pee in mid-air for a few frames, only to realize that it's probably best to wait until he has both feet on the ground. A great thing about this glitch is that Sam can glide for as long as you can keep up the rhythm of pressing the button. It takes time to master, but once you do, you can quite literally go almost anywhere you want, with the exception of a few areas that are out of bounds or blocked by invisible walls. There's some nuance to how this all works, so let's get into more detail. The speed in which you glide is directly tied to the speed Sam's traveling at. That speed is determined by how long you hold the jump for and how fast Sam is running. There is a dedicated sprint mechanic, and the rhythm for the glitch at this speed is slightly faster than the speed at which you would press the button during a regular running animation. Differences in gliding speed will be much more apparent as I take you through the run after everything is explained. Another thing to take note of is height. Obviously, if you're going to utilize Norman Pedus to its full potential, you'll need to be able to gain height to overcome the various levels of terrain. There's terrain that's as small as some slightly inconvenient hills, to mountains that seem impossible to pass. Not only that, but surviving the long drop after passing said terrain is also an important component. Fortunately, the way that the game reads Sam's distance from the ground is tied to the start of the glitch, rather than wherever you end up. Meaning the distance from the ground is stored, and as long as wherever you land isn't extremely low, you should be able to fall safely. But how exactly do you even gain height, you may ask? Well, a part of mastering the execution of the glitch is mastering the difference between rhythms. A slightly delayed rhythm allows the animation to play out longer, which will initiate a slight jump in height. It can be tricky getting used to switching between these two rhythms, but practice makes perfect. Right, with all of that explained, you can probably already imagine how big of a glitch this is in a game with an open world as large as Death Stranding's, but it is not easy to consistently do it for as long as these runs take. You also now understand how peeing works in Kojima's newly created game universe, and how it's seemingly much more complicated than ours. But maybe us regular humans can change that in the future. I don't even really know what I'm implying here, but you should subscribe to support the Pea Gliding Research Initiative. Okay, let's get into the run, shall we? The run I'll be using is KevBot's 3 hour and 44 minute any % world record, which was achieved in early August of 2021. This run was the result of Kev, Dragonbane, and Koyubi Sumiko working together to create new strats that would allow almost an entire hour of time save over the old route, which was mainly created by One Cool Man and Distortion 2. A special shout out to Dragonbane, as Kev mentioned that they were a huge contributor to the new routing by finding a lot of strats that allowed him to grind this time down so far. Also, to avoid me saying Norman Pedus 78 more times in this video, I'm mostly going to refer to the glitch as gliding. I know, disappointing, not as iconic, but it's a lot easier and you're not going to get sick of me as quick. Or well, at least I would hope. Now then, not even 5 seconds into controlling Sam, gliding is already used to skip the first sequence of cutscenes with Fragile that introduces you to the prologue. After that, another glide is initiated at the bottom of the hill, which lasts all the way until reaching the first delivery at Capital Knot City. The importance of this glitch is already apparent here, as it's not only about speed, but about consistency. Death Stranding's terrain can be quite difficult to traverse, depending on what equipment you have, and, well, at the beginning of the game you don't have anything to make it easier. Doing this short trip on foot is anywhere between 30 to 45 seconds slower, simply due to the fact that you can't maintain a straight line like you can with gliding, and the possible inconsistency of running through the environment. Now, with that said, there are times in this game where you can't make use of the glitch while carrying certain cargo, which happens directly after this first trip. In these cases, having Sam stumble forward is the fastest way of movement, but you can already see how easy it may be to mess up while micromanaging the various traversal mechanics in the game. I'm not exactly sure what's harder, repeatedly cancelling mid-air urination, or not tripping over thousands of large rocks. Either way, it's obvious what's more beneficial. Just look at this glide to the next way station. These glides just get better and better, and honestly even more interesting to watch as you get to view these areas from a completely different point of view that most people don't get to see.
Look up in the sky! It's a bird!
It's a plane!
It's Superman!
Wait, no, who the hell is that?
It's Norman Pedus!
Now that you've watched a couple of examples of how much time Norman Pedus can potentially save, I want to show you a handful of amazing strategies and skips that were created with the help of it. In Death Stranding, BTs are a regular part of the experience, and there are scripted encounters early on so the player can familiarize themselves with them. After reaching the way station west of Capital Knot City, KevBot not only sets up a glide that will take him directly to the distribution center, but also utilizes maximum height air jumps to pass over a BT cutscene trigger. As you can see here, the cutscene wastes a lot of time and also forces the runner to reactivate glides in a hostile BT encounter. While the game doesn't necessarily focus on action often, there are sections where Sam needs to handle the mules. Mules are a group of cargo thieves who ambush porters on deliveries, or porters who pass by their camps. An order in episode 3 requires you to retrieve a system server from their stash, and this can be handled in many different ways. But speedrunners, well, they have the ability to fly, which means Sam Porter Bridges is about to drop from the top rope in the sky, fall about 20-ish feet in the air, and stomp the absolute shit out of the mule in front of the post box. Compared to the previous routing, where a bola gun is used to take down the mules, this new strat allows Kev to go completely unnoticed and take the truck without having to use anything. Once that order is complete, returning to Lake Knot City will unlock the long-range reverse trike, which now eliminates the need to go on foot for most of episode 3 until Order 34. I find this order in the run pretty funny, so I just had to include it. Sam has acquired the Speed Skeleton, which allows the ability to jump with heavier cargo, more mobility, and most importantly, faster running speeds. As I stated earlier, these speeds also determine the speed of the glides. This isn't what makes this funny though. What makes it funny is that Sam is required to carry the chiral artist in a bag on his back, and the chiral artist is very much alive and well. Once Sam starts gliding with the use of the previously acquired speed skeleton, you can only imagine the view from the artist's perspective. I mean, if I was that artist, Sam and I would both be peak gliding, if you know what I mean. Anyways, moving on. Kev shows great consistency with glides in the first half of the run, and what I've shown you so far is just how much faster it really is. But what if I told you we haven't reached maximum speeds yet? Oh no. Remember earlier how I said that the speed of the glide is tied to the running speed of Sam and how long his jump is? Well, 2 words. Speed skeleton. Now that Sam doesn't have a whole human being on his back, he can utilize maximum speed P-gliding. It's so fast that it now eliminates the need for vehicles and most other traveling methods. Since the next few episodes of the game have a ton of mountains to scale, as well as extremely cold climates that reduce mobility, the mid-game becomes one of the hardest parts of the run to execute at a high level. For the runner, the rest of the route is not easy and can be pretty nerve-wracking. Keeping composure during these glides is incredibly important, seeing as it is a rhythm-based trick. Although, for the viewer, maximum speed glides make certain sections quite the spectacle to watch, whether you've played the game or not. Kev clearly has a lot of experience and makes these glides look easy, but I assure you they're not. Order 44 is the example of his skill and composure, as it's the most difficult glide to execute in the entire run. This order requires Sam to transport an antimatter bomb to Mountain Knot City. An antimatter bomb. Accidentally damage it too much? It explodes. Drop the glide and let it fall too far? It explodes. Have it collide with something while gliding? It explodes. Look at it wrong? It explodes. Yeah, you get the point here. But the bomb exploding isn't exactly why this is the hardest trick. In order for this to be a successful order, and fast, Kev needs to chain together delayed inputs to gain height during the glide. I mentioned this earlier, where delaying the grenade button during glides is how you allow Sam to gain height from a recycled jump. If he doesn't gain enough height in this travel route, it's almost a guaranteed explosive finish to the run. Kev not only nailed it, but it also ended in quite a funny way.
Well, I dropped it, so I guess we'll be fine. Unless it like somehow blows up right here, which it has before. Okay, good. Yeah, that was actually not too bad at all.
With the hardest glide in the game done, it's time to show you just how annoying the snowy mountains of episode 6 can be. The snowy sections were so abysmal with the bike that routing was done specifically to build a bunch of zip lines for orders where you need to backtrack. Of course, this was kind of, in the early days when the routing was just being done. The entirety of this episode takes place in these mountains, so traversal is just quite difficult. Gliding isn't always viable from how high up these mountains are, so the cargo sled is used to get down long slopes. Not only do you have to execute these glides now, but making use of the cargo sled without falling off is a bit of a balancing act. Hitting ledges at weird angles, strange collision on rocks, falling a little too far, it all causes Sam to fall and lose decent chunks of time. Somehow, still much better than dragging the bike through it all. After the snowy mountains have been conquered, Order 62 leads Sam to the tar pit, where he is asked to find a way of crossing it. Normally, this is a big set piece of the game where you're crossing the tar pit with buildings and vehicles erupting from it to be used as platforms. The end goal here is to reach Emily. The old route had Sam purposefully getting dragged into the tar pit by a BT encounter, ignoring it, and then gliding to Emily. The new route skips straight to the glide off of the chiral relay platform, which is the perfect height to completely skip the set piece entirely. Thankfully, that set piece isn't needed for Emily to spawn, so gliding straight to her ends the episode. And that leads us to Norman Reedus and Troy Baker in a sexy tar wrestling match. I'm sorry, wait, what? Who? Okay. So, those of you who have played Death Stranding may have a big question in common now that you're this deep into the video. What about the Unger episodes? Right here. They are short, they are sweet, and filled with the glides that look really cool in these environments. These episodes star Mads Mikkelsen playing a character named Cliff Unger. The sequences have Sam thrown into war where he must fight Cliff and his troops. The objective is to simply defeat him, but normally you would have to get through a few scripted parts with the troops. With the power of Norman Petus, you can kiss those World War I trenches goodbye and bully Cliff before he understands how you got behind him. Episode 7 is also seemingly World War I, but in a city. Sam must travel through some tunnels to get to the area Cliff is in, and Kev surprised himself here by nailing a glide through them. I mean, considering Kev's reaction, that's probably a pretty hard glide to do, and he made it look easy, so hats off to him.
Dude, no fucking way I just got that. What the f? I can't believe I just got that. I can never get it in like a run where it matters.
The fight against Cliff at the end is pretty similar to the first Unger episode, and it goes smoothly as long as you can glide to the right spots before he shows up. Episode 11 is the last one for the old Mads, and it's set in the Vietnam War this time. I'd say this is the most enjoyable glide to watch in the Unger episodes, as the terrain just really complements it. Sam is quite literally flying over helicopters here. That's the power of P, baby. After Sam takes down Cliff for the last time, you all get to see one of the last and one of the most important glides in the run. Episode 12 has Sam finally returned to Capital Knot City, but on his way there he encounters a giant whale BT that acts as the final boss. Much like the tar pit, this is another set piece of the game that isn't necessarily required for Sam to fulfill his objective. This is one of my favorite glides in the run. You are gliding all the way from Port Knot City to Capital Knot City, flying high in the sky through the very first area of the entire game at maximum gliding speed, and you're skipping a scripted cutscene and boss fight. It's a great showcase of gliding consistency from the runner, and it also shows you just how far you can travel in one go. To take this a step further, the eastern region here is about 2.25 miles or 3.625 kilometers. I'm not sure how long it takes you to run a little over 2 miles in rocky mountains with cargo strapped to your torso, but it's certainly a lot longer than 4 minutes. Kojima is onto something here, guys. I mean, like I mentioned earlier in the video, just subscribe, you know, and we can get this whole P gliding research initiative going soon, I think. Anyways, there are just a bunch of other moments throughout this almost 4-hour run where gliding is a great spectacle. I can't include them all, but I hope the ones that I've shown you so far are a treat for all of you. The cherry on top of this is the final glide of the game. Hearing BB's theme while Sam is flying through the air. For those of you who have played Death Stranding all the way to the end, you know that this moment of the game is just, it's beautiful. I damn near cried here when I first played this. While it may not hit the same with Norman Reedus flying through the air with the use of the urinate button, you can imagine that as a speedrunner, getting to this point is also extremely cathartic and beautiful, just the same as you would be playing the game normally. Kev persevered through what he thought was a run he wouldn't be happy with, but little did he know in the early game that he would get a 44. Hell, the whole run he was convinced that it was all going wrong, and that he was actually just going to stop running the game flat out. See, I would comment on this, but I think that somebody in the comments of his world record video already said it best. So in the words of Unfrog1307, it's like you are completely immersed in the role of Sam, brutally sad and pessimistic, despite the incredible work you're doing. I hope you enjoyed this video of me explaining the Norman Petus and how it's used to make Sam's expedition one hell of a story for the grandkids. You can also tell them that we got Death Stranding 2 before GTA 6 or Elder Scrolls 6. I had a ton of fun cooking this one up, and I'm sure my editor, Not Absolutely Sure, did as well, so thank you for reaching it this far in the video. A huge thank you to all of the Death Stranding speedrunners for their hard work. Whether it's runners like Distortion2 and One Cool Man helping pave the way in the early days, or Dragonbane Zero glitch hunting and finding optimizations, or Kevbot grinding the game for 8 months to get the time that low. I'll put his world record run in the description if you'd like to watch the whole thing. If you liked this enough to get to this point, I do suggest that you check out some of the other speedrun documentaries that I've made in the past, and to make sure that you're subscribed for future releases. I'll have a few good ones up on the end screen here for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time for another wait, no, that's not it. I mean, thrilling speedrunning story.